Good morning, everybody. This is the Personal Playlist Podcast, fondly referred to as the P3 on Voice Ed Radio. I'm Noah Daniel.
Music is a world within itself, with a language we all understand.
I'm so excited to have Christian Scarlato here on the Personal Playlist Podcast. Christian officially began his education career in 2005. He always had a love of children's theater, and a large portion of his first career was in the performing arts. Christian was working with all ages, writing and directing published and original works. He spent time on air and in promotions at Toronto's rock radio station Q107 and co-created an education program there where schools came to the station to tour and meet radio DJs, the tech team, and other vital members of the Q team. From there, he found his way to Famous People Players Theater, where he had his first opportunity to work with individuals with special needs. This rewarding time with FPP led Christian to making a partnership with his own theater company, Christian Scarlato Productions, and Community Living York South. This was the first time Christian collaborated with the special needs adults and children to write and direct their own works. Once a year, Community Living would perform these creations at Vaughan City Playhouse. It was then that Christian decided to become a teacher, and over the past decade and a half has applied these skills to the elementary curriculum and many extracurricular activities where student voice rings louder than thunder. Christian recently became ordained a minister and founded Hands and Harmony Ministries, where he continues to use the performing arts as a therapeutic method to relieve anxiety, especially around public speaking and socialization. Christian says he feels truly blessed to be part of something so wonderful as to work with so many children and people of all ages, and of course, the remarkable team of educators that he has met. Welcome to the show, Christian.
It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Noah.
It's my pleasure. When I actually first was hired at Silver Pines Public School and was touring, we saw the Scarvengers picture on your door. And my vice principal, Lisa Haskell, our vice principal, said, you are really going to get along well with him. And from the moment we met in person, you were singing and I kind of picked up the beat. And then we started working on the Remembrance Day Assembly. I knew that you were a wonderful collaborator, and I've watched you run the school's Terry Fox events. I've watched you mentor your amazing tech team and your pre-service teachers that are in your room. I've watched you facilitate the Writers and Directors Guild, where students write and direct their own works and learn how to lead and inspire their peers. I've watched you run Talent Night Live, and now I'm watching you film the What's in a Name projects around the school for the second Story of Us video. So you do so much for our school, and I'm so lucky to work with somebody as talented as you. I'm really excited that you're here.
Thank you so much. You know, the feeling is mutual, and I think it's an energy that you bring out that just immediately gravitates, and that's the real secret when you're working in a school is you know, finding the energy of your colleagues and bridging those gaps, and that was the first thing I sensed when we started collaborating.
I'm so glad. I want to hear a little bit about Story of Us because I came to school after this incredible buzz in our school culture. Story of Us was like a breakthrough video that you helped to create for the school.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. The Story of Us originally started because our principal, Lindsay Diacu, wanted to explore more of the student voice. And one of the ways that she sought that was through the concept of the film festivals. And the Toronto International Film Festival is a huge worldwide piece. And that was her inspiration and her thinking of why not do a documentary that brings the student voice out. And the easiest way to do that is by talking about where you come from, what your culture is, what your ideas are, what your journey has been in life so far. And you can get blown away absolutely by people, even as young as kindergarten. There's always, you know, that old phrase, out of the mouth of babes. Well,
Sure.
We brought that to life. Like, we really brought that idea to life. The hardest part of that was trying to edit it into a 35-minute film.
Yeah, I just think that that's incredible. But you have an eye and you were able to, you know, really encapsulate some important big ideas and get a spectrum of people speaking.
That's very kind of you to say, but I have to give full credit to the team as well. Like, collaborating and finding voice. We actually had students who were doing the filming and also helping with the selection process. So it was very much a collaborative piece.
So how are you feeling so far with this year's filming?
This year's filming, I'm feeling really great. Of course, being a fan of Shakespeare, he is in my head the entire time when I'm hearing, what's in a name? A rose by any other name will still smell as sweet. And that rings so true. Whether students are talking about loving their name, hating their name, where that name comes from, that Shakespearean line is, you know, every story is so sweet and every name is so brilliant.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where all of this is going. But
Actually, you know what? I got to tell you and
okay.
tell your fans out there that you know, the concept of going with the name actually is something that you brought to the school. So, you know, thank you so much for your idea and your input, hitting the ground running as soon as you walk through the doors.
I appreciate that so much, but I have to really give credit to my students because it was Rachel's work at Quest where she, you know, told her what's in a name story that came out of the project in my classroom that really, I think, propelled all of us to understand how powerful it is, how much it reflects cultural diversity, and how it helps bring us all together in a wider understanding and wider view of who everybody is in our space. And that collaboration of building our school around who's inside of it is just another thing that I know Lindsay values and tries to ensure. So I just feel like I was part of something from the beginning that you guys had already started, and it was just the right thing at the right time. But I appreciate that. You know what? I'm really into gathering stories, and I think that's the best way to show people as individuals and to highlight the unique lens that every person has, even on their own worlds. So let's talk about your unique lens. You brought me 3 songs: a nostalgic song, a song that reflects your identity, and a song that lifts you up, picks you up, inspires, and motivates. Tell me a little bit about the process of choosing your 3 songs.
Oh, this was not an easy thing because, as you know, I've joked around and I've heard this so many times on your show. The thinking, and especially because I have always at least 3 songs, 2 movies, three TV shows going through my head all at once. You can imagine it's difficult to fall asleep, but it's very easy to wake up. So I'm like, okay, so what do you do? I mean, I sing on the side as well. I was in a rock band for a while. You know, I have my background in Broadway, and so it's like, what can sum those up? So I picked songs that were partially what had been a long-term inspiration, and believe it or not, it was almost like a survey. Okay, how many times is this song going through my head now? How many times is this song going through my head now? How many times is this song going through my head now? And these were like the top 3 that my subconscious seemed to have jump into my head. And then I took that. I know it's the strangest process in the world. And then from there, I cut down how many times I hear it and when the song pops up, because songs do pop up randomly, but sometimes it's also based on the situation I'm in. So as I'm taking this mental survey, I'm like, well, this song keeps coming up when I'm feeling this way. This song is a constant throughout my life. And then this song is, as soon as I walk through the doors at the school, I have that shooting through my head. And I think you've even heard me singing it sometimes when you're walking through the door, and I miss our duets. So now that the talent show's done, I think I'm going to be sticking my head out more and trying to get the double team going.
You know what? You're just the kind of person, because I always walk into school with a song in my head, and sometimes I'm singing it, or often, and then you just play out the rest of it. So I quite enjoy that walk in. But let's walk into your nostalgic song. So this is a song, the second time I get to pull the lead out, which is super fun for me always. But for the first time as, you know, really a nostalgic song. And this song, it's so funny because when you said it, I immediately thought of like your love of Tolkien and the grand adventure that kind of underlies so many of the lyrics in this song. So tell me about this song and why it's been nostalgic, but also with you your whole life.
This song has been with me because it was inspired, of course, by my best friend during a long time ago, during a time where things were very, very difficult. As you can imagine, when you have a dream of sitting up there wanting to accept an Oscar award, and you realize that particular dream isn't going to happen, but it's going to take different forms, and it's okay to avoid dreams that could lead in one direction that you're realizing isn't going to happen anymore, accepting that and moving on to new dreams that are coming your way that can be just as, if not more, rewarding. And so I was going through that very difficult time of transition when I realized, and not that education was a fallback, and I want to make that really clear because you hear that a lot, especially when you're coming from show business, and it was never that, because teaching was never on my radar. It was never on my radar until one moment when we were doing a show with the community living, and I had written this script out, and one of the adults, because we're working with people who are like 20 to 40-year-old, who's a wonderful autistic young man, Adriano, I remember his name, and this is a lifetime ago. He was struggling to read this one thing, and I was doing all these tactics, doing all this dramatic stuff. We're laughing our heads off. I'm playing different characters, like, now hang on a second, you need to read it like this, and you got to read it with that kind of, and he's laughing, and he's trying it with this accent and trying this and that, and he's missing these words, and everyone's just having a grand old time until he finally got it, and we just are cheering. He's the biggest one, and we go on stage, and he delivered beautifully, and I realized I've never felt more rewarding in my life. Ramble On is that song where it really taught me that and that's the thing when I chose these songs, it wasn't even just about necessarily the lyrics, it was time, it was place, it was the intention of the song in some cases. But Ramble On, it was that reminder of, you have done everything you possibly can. And then, of course, because I am a geek, I am a full-out geek. Star Trek and Marvel and DC and Star Wars. If it has a star in it, I'm listening to it. If it's marvelous, then I'm involved. And I love DC as well, and even indie. So please, if you're listening and Mr. Gold, I know you're a big DC fan. He's a principal in our board. I still love it too. So remember, we're all good here. We're all part of the same family. Kirk's situation of never believing in the no-win scenario, but by doing that, you have to alter the conditions of the test. So Ramble On is that song where you've taken it as far as you can go. The universe is pushing back. Whatever is pushing back, now it's time to alter the conditions of the test. And when you hear those lyrics like, Gollum and the evil one crept up and snuck away with her, and there was nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do, so I've just got to keep on rambling. Leaves are falling all around, time I was on my way. Thanks to you, and that gratefulness for everything that you learned, everything you've learned in this situation, and how much you've grown, as painful as it is. And you can apply this to anything. You can apply it to your career. You can apply it to a broken heart. You can even apply it, and I'm sure parents feel this when their child has grown up. They're going to university. They're signing up for kindergarten for the first time. You can see that. Time I was on my way. Thanks to you, I was much obliged for such a pleasant stay. But now it's time for me to go. The autumn moon lights my way. And that feeling of the pain of doing that, I smell the rain, I feel the pain, and it's heading my way. But I've got to ramble on. I gotta move on. I gotta grow from this, and I've got to head out. And that's good to have that consistent moment. And that's why that song has reduced my anxiety and has in its way brought hope to my life. And I hope by hearing this, other people realize, hey, that's not a bad idea. And Zeppelin rocks.
Okay, well, let's play it. Ramble On by Led Zeppelin.
Much obliged for such a pleasant stay. But now it's time for me to go. The autumn moon lights my way. But now I
That's a fun way to start a day.
It really is. It really is. And you know what? I'm hearing that song again, and everything and the journey just gets summed up as you go through. And of course, being a Tolkien fan and the fan that they were, and one of the biggest identities that I've struggled with, and I know other people struggle with, are those certain quirks. And again, that geekiness has been something that's been a blessing and a curse. And of course, I play Dungeons and Dragons every once in a while. I've been teaching my students that on snow days and at recess, and you realize actually what a place it is therapeutically, as well as just the fun and creativity. And Tolkien was an inspiration to that, as it was to Led Zeppelin. So here's a major rock band, rock stars that have that geeky moment. And that's another thing that it reminds me of, is that it's not wrong to be a geek, and it's not wrong to be different. And it's a beautiful piece all around. Thank you for allowing me to play it and listen to it first thing in the morning. And I have the biggest smile on my face right now.
I'm so glad. And, it really is chic to be geek. I think the Big Bang Theory really popularized the power of the geek. But the truth is that there's so much from an academic standpoint in all of these things that have been attributed to geek. I mean, comic book loving, Dungeon and Dragon playing, the layers of fantasy, creativity, theory, mathematics that all play out in all of these scenarios are just wonderful ways to learn.
You're absolutely right. And as I'm also huge into board games, and that's great because it's been giving kids a whole other way of expression, creativity, everything you mentioned, and giving them a break off of technology. I mean, I'm a huge fan of technology, but that social element that board games and the problem solving, the literacy, the math, the culture, the history that they teach, the variety, it's a good thing to have and bring back.
So speaking of all the subjects, your identity song brought me back to the very first musical that I was ever in. And this song was probably their best known piece from this particular operatic performance. But it really does focus a lot on content. And it makes me think about how content can be delivered through song, which is really a metaphor for, teachers feel confined sometimes by the curriculum, but it can be a creative portal, and you can use lots of different means to bring the content out. So tell us a little bit about your identity song choice.
So the identity song choice is very much the fact that at any given time, at the speed of light, we as educators, as well as just people in this world that I don't think people realize, wear so many hats. And we have to change that hat so fast sometimes that it's almost unrecognizable, even to ourselves, when we have to go into these moments. I joke around about going into show mode, which is a very, very focused state of mind to make sure that the show is ready, to make sure that everything is in place, to make sure that whoever's directing it, even if it's myself or a student or a team of students, are on the ball and keeping everything running and including their heads. And it's funny because then there's a certain facial expression that goes with it and a certain feeling that goes with it. And sometimes it's like, I even say to the group beforehand, I'm like, please, please, please do not take it personally if I have a strange look on my face and I'm in show mode and I can't speak to you at that second. Don't leave. Just stay in that spot. If you see my hand up, that doesn't mean walk away, or I don't want to talk to you. I just need to finish what I'm doing here and focus, or I'll lose my thought, and then I'll always turn back and talk to you and whatever you need, or whatever question, or if there's somebody else who you need to find or whatnot, right? So, or when you're coming back in from recess and suddenly you need to be a therapist, or suddenly you need to be a almost medical practitioner. Someone's hurt themselves, bang their head, and if you're the CP, you have the emergency training and whatnot, or a parent suddenly shows up, or also in the elementary program, you have to teach all the subjects. So you have to shift from health suddenly to drama, then back to math, and the reminder also, because of the way this song moves, and this is really, really important, is you do not have to be perfect at everything. You don't have to do that. You don't have to put yourself into that place. You do the best you can. And, remember that you are part of an education community. You're part of a community at home, and going to the person who is more of the expert is not a bad thing. And they say that pride is the worst sin of all, and vanity is the devil's favorite sin, if that's the direction that you believe spiritually, or whatever dark element. And it really, really is, because it's the most insidious, it's the most subtle, and it causes the most amount of downfalls. So that's why this song, again, has as many layers as it has positions in the music. And I'd love, by the way, if this is the first musical you were in, you definitely are you're going to sing a few bars on the show right now, right?
No, I always sing, by the way, just not that anybody else can hear, really, just for the benefit of the artist being the forefront of the song. But let's just deal with the fact that this is satire, which I know that's something that you love to play in, and it's fast-paced and has a tongue-twisty nature. So, I see it completely as your identity song. But let's play I Am the Very Model of a Modern Major General from Gilbert and Sullivan's The Pirates of Penzance.
I am the very model of a modern major general. I've information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England and decode the fights historical, from Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical. I am very well acquainted too with matters mathematical. I understand equations both the simple and quadratical. About polynomial theorem I am teeming with a lot of news. With many cheerful facts about the square of the hypotenuse. I am very good at integral and differential calculus. I know the scientific names of beings and animalculus. In short, in matters vegetable, animal, and mineral, I am the very model of a modern major general.
It's funny, actually. I haven't looked at the lyrics in many, many years, and I know a lot more of the content than I ever used to know. Feeling a little bit relieved about that.
But do you see how it really rings true as educators, how you have to do that? Like, the first bit of that stanza, that pretty much sums up, when I walk in at 7:32, about when the bell rings and the kids are starting to come in. I've already done all of that. And then the rest of the day goes like the very model of it, because that's what, and you're expected to be that. And sometimes I think, and I worry that, much like the speed and the stress of trying to sing that song, that can affect teachers and staff in a lot of ways. And we have to be mindful of ourselves and our hearts as well.
But I think, listen, like every teacher that I've ever spoken to critiques the reality of pace and time in education. But if you don't have a little bit of humor and you can't find your rhythm, that's really where the challenge comes in. So hopefully you can find a way to start a new day. And that's where that pick me up song becomes so useful. No matter where you are, what you're doing, there are certain songs for certain people that they can pull out, and they just know that they can reframe their state of mind or their state of being. And you chose a song that reflects so much of your outlook on life. And I've had the privilege of seeing you, make those shifts. So tell us a little bit about how this song became your pick-me-up.
I owe this song 100% to Marvel's greatest hero, in my opinion, the Amazing Spider-Man. Because with Spider-Man, there's one consistent thing, which I think is why he became, because he's just a teenager, or he was just a teenager, and he's grown up a bit now because he's been around for 40 years, or for almost 50. He had this one common thing, and I know everyone knows with great power comes great responsibility, but that is not the essence of Spider-Man. The essence of Spider-Man is every time he falls down, he finds a way to pick himself up. And when I was younger, when I was in high school, ironically was a very horrible time for me consistently. And I hated school with the power of Anova pretty much through my entire life. And believe me, my friends remind me that there is no irony lost on the direction my life took. But at the end of the day, I was really, really picked on a lot for my size, for my geekiness, for my wit and the way it was, and it was very difficult. So a bunch of us who are very much picked on the same way kind of banded together after, believe it or not, watching the movie Revenge of the Nerds, which anyone in our generation would know. So we watched Revenge of the Nerds and went, we've got to defend ourselves, but we had to talk in code. So we gave each other comic book names, because then they would sit back and think we were talking about these comic books, because they were always around us, always looking for ways to hurt us and bother us and whatnot. But if we were talking in comic book code and we were talking about them and kind of plotting ways to defend ourselves and make sure that we knew where each other were, so if they tried to get us as a group that they couldn't, because there would be a bunch of us. So, but no matter how many times I was hit or whatnot, I would always find a way to pick myself up, and so I got the name Spider-Man. And that's why you'll every once in a while hear me at school when something's not right, I'm be saying my spider sense is tingling, because it literally has been since back then. And this song was the song that you hear those lyrics, you hear, just keep the faith now, your ship will come in, and how this is just life. This is the way it is. This song, though, is about, you know what? You get the smile on your face. You got four walls around that. In whatever form that takes, you are able to go forward. You keep that humor. You keep that positivity. You keep that energy, and you keep those people around you, your response team, your support team. And even if it's a small group or a large group, you will find it and you will achieve what you wish.
Okay, well, here is a song by Newfoundland folk band Great Big Sea, released in 1997, Ordinary Day.
I've got a smile on my face and I've got four walls around me. Got the sun in the sky, all the water surround me. Oh, yeah, I win now, sometimes I lose. I've been battered, but I never bruise. It's not so bad. And I say, hey, it's just an ordinary day, and it's all your state of mind. At the end of the day, you just got to say it's alright. Jeannie sings on the corner, what keeps her from dying?
That was so the theme of Captain Marvel, too. It's making me smile just thinking about watching it with my girls yesterday. Amazing.
What a great, I hear so many great things, and so true. I mean, from the books, my treat this week is to go see Captain Marvel, and I can't wait.
Okay, well, you'll have to call me and talk about it after, because it's so fun. Okay.
I cannot wait.
Back to you for a second. So, although you're not on social media, you can reach out to you through your YRDSB email. And then if you're relating anything to the work that you do in relation to public speaking, reducing anxiety, weddings, funerals, christenings, and inquiries about things related to Christian Scarlato Productions, you can reach out to christianscarlatoproductions@gmail.com. I love that your mind, heart, spirit, and sanctuary is open to any and everyone. And I can just imagine what a wonderful experience that would be at a milestone ceremony to have your voice and your humor and your insight at the front of the room. I want to thank you so much for coming out. How are you feeling about sharing your 3 songs?
It has been an incredible experience, and I knew coming on this show it would be a wonderful myriad of emotions, and it was. As I was hearing Ordinary Day, I was actually starting to choke up because all of that came out, and I'm looking at this big portrait of Spider-Man that I have in my living room, and he's giving me the thumbs up. You can see it's been such an incredible experience, and to be considered among so many of the other people that you've had on the show, and these wonderful educators, and the way you've brought them all together and allowed them to express their ideas and share their journeys. It's really an honor, Noah, to be a part of of such a wonderful podcast and a great show. And you are a magnificent hostess. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic day.
You too, and my best in my heart and my wishes of good fortune and good health to everybody listening.
Thank you for joining us on the P3, the Personal Playlist Podcast. I'm Noah Daniel. This is Voice Ed Radio, and I hope you have a fantastic day.